BPH Corporate is an investor, and it invests into both hydrocarbon but also into other investment areas like biotechnology. And we will hold a 20% interest in Advent, which in turn then has at the outset an 85% interest in this PEP11 project. So we're looking to drive the creation of shareholder value by the projects that we invest in and take through to fruition. And of course I've got an involvement both in BPH Corporate and in Advent Energy, which is actually drilling this project, because I act as the chairman of BPH Corporate but also as executive director for Advent Energy. We're located immediately offshore Sydney. It's an 8,100 square kilometre permit, so it's closest to the major population centre in Australia, and it's an offshore permit, and it's a huge permit in terms of its prospectivity and the closeness to market. We plan to drill in the third quarter of this year. So we're not yet a producer, and we have now put into place all of the elements that we need to do that, like helicopters and boats and site survey and environmental approvals, and we're in the process of actually pulling that exploration package together. So we'll look to drill in the third quarter of this year. Our primary objective is gas, and there may well be a liquids component to the area, but it is known as a proven petroleum or a proven hydrocarbon province, and the target prospective gas in place that we're looking at is 16 TCF. So in the success case, it really is a very significant project. The prospective gas in place is 16 trillion cubic feet. To put that in perspective, Australia discovered oil and gas in the Bass Strait in 1965 and used 5 trillion cubic feet of gas over something like a 40-year time frame. So it's a very significant amount of hydrocarbon in the success case that we're looking at. There is both a domestic and an international demand. Australia has become, or is forecast to become, the second largest exporter of liquefied natural gas in the world, behind Qatar, and that growth is coming from areas all around Australia. But of course, with a 16 TCF discovery, or even a 7 trillion cubic feet discovery, that would be massive, both in terms of the domestic marketplace but also the international marketplace, and so therefore has the potential to be a real company maker, both for Advent, which is the company which we as BPH Corporate have invested in, but also for BPH Corporate, of course, because BPH Corporate now controls a 20% interest in Advent, which in turn has this major hydrocarbon project that it's working on. The customers for Australian energy are China, Japan, Korea, and of course India. And China and India, as they are developing their industrial strength and their middle class, are consuming more and more energy. They don't like to use coal to generate their electricity, and they would prefer to use gas, which is where the liquefied natural gas project and the potential for a liquefied natural gas project really becomes important. The Sydney Basin, the offshore Sydney Basin, which is where the project that we're investing in is based, is a proven petroleum basin. Something over 60% of the wells that have been drilled in the onshore have in fact found either oil or gas shows in that drilling. But the independent reports, which include independent government reports going back over a 20-year time frame, each say that in fact the offshore area of the Sydney Basin is in fact more productive, and in technical or geological terms it was subject to a marine influence over geological time, which makes it more prospective for gas or oil discovery. But in fact in this instance it's more prospective for gas discovery. As you may or may not know, almost all of the major discoveries of gas around Australia have in fact come from the offshore areas. This basin was never drilled, and it was never drilled, we think, because coal is so cheap to generate electricity from that in fact there was no need at the time to use the gas that these people had anticipated was there to produce electricity. And now of course we're in a world where carbon dioxide emissions become a major global issue, and the use of gas to generate electricity creates only half of the CO2 emissions that the burning coal does. And so, to put it in perspective, if you were to convert all of those coal-fired power stations to gas, then you would meet Australia's Kyoto Principle objectives just through that step. Our immediate objective is to drill the first well in the offshore Sydney Basin in 2010, and our longer term goal is to have a major gas discovery with commercial production into the domestic marketplace in New South Wales, but also to have a project that's of the size that makes us a player in the world LNG marketplace, and the prospective gas in place target that we're looking at would enable us in fact to do just that. Our proximity to Sydney. Sydney in fact has a population base of around 5 million people, and it's the largest domestic marketplace within Australia. But not only that, we're only 20 kilometres from the infrastructure and pipework and gas distribution network of New South Wales. So we have a very significant competitive advantage in terms of proximity to market. They would have the potential in the success case of a discovery of getting a very substantial uplift in value. If we are successful at the mean of a 7 TCF or a 16 TCF discovery, then that really is a company-making proposition for both BPH Corporate and Advent. Gas produces roughly 50% of the carbon dioxide emissions of coal. So gas as a clean source of energy is in a major growth phase, not just within Australia but in the international arena, in particular for Australia with the customers like China and Japan and Korea. And so gas as a source of clean energy really is in a significant growth phase in the international arena.